I'm fighting like hell, and we're going to protect Canada. He's underestimating the Canadian people, the resilience of the Canadian people, and the strength of the Canadian people.
Well, what people think here in Canada, that China is getting better treatment than their closest allies and friends.
In a stunning turn of events that's sending shockwaves through international trade and U.S. politics, Mexico and Canada have unveiled a massive $120 billion trade corridor designed to bypass the United States entirely. And Donald Trump is not happy about it. This bold move threatens to reshape North American trade and expose serious vulnerabilities in the very tariff policies Trump championed during his presidency. It all began with growing frustration among America's closest neighbors. Over the past decade, especially during Trump's time in office, the U.S. has become increasingly unpredictable when it comes to trade. Tariffs were slapped on everything from steel to dairy, straining relations and making cross-border business more difficult. Instead of waiting for things to stabilize, Mexico and Canada have now taken matters into their own hands. The result is one of the largest infrastructure projects in North American history. The new corridor will stretch from Mexico's Pacific coast, through the heart of the country, and connect directly to Canadian ports and rail systems. It's designed with one very specific goal in mind: move goods from Mexico to Canada, and vice versa, without touching U.S. soil. For Trump, who built his political identity around America First economics, this is nothing short of a humiliation. He spent years bragging about rewriting NAFTA into the USMCA, insisting it gave America the upper hand. Now, that agreement may be undercut by two of its own members. Almost immediately after the announcement, Trump took to Truth Social with a furious response. In a series of angry posts, he called the corridor an act of betrayal, accused both nations of economic warfare, and threatened to tear up the USMCA if construction continues. But here's the reality. Neither Mexico nor Canada is breaking any rules. They're simply investing in infrastructure. They're building roads, rail lines, and port upgrades. And legally, the U.S. has little recourse to stop them. Economists are now warning that this corridor could dramatically reduce U.S. influence over continental trade. Today, a huge percentage of Mexican exports pass through the United States before continuing to other destinations. U.S. ports, customs agents, and shipping routes all take a cut of that traffic. But once the new corridor is operational, those same goods could skip the U.S. entirely, saving money, time, and avoiding American tariffs. And that's exactly the point. This corridor is about independence. It's a strategic response to years of trade uncertainty and political brinkmanship. By linking directly with each other, Mexico and Canada are diversifying their trade options and giving themselves more bargaining power on the global stage. This is also part of a broader pattern. Over the last few years, Canada and Mexico have been quietly strengthening their own trade ties. They're collaborating more on energy, automotive manufacturing, agriculture, and even emerging tech sectors. With this corridor in place, those connections will only deepen. From an investor's perspective, it's a no-brainer. Multinational corporations are already exploring how they can take advantage of this new route. Cheaper logistics, faster shipping, and fewer regulatory hurdles. It's exactly what global businesses look for. But for the United States, and particularly for Donald Trump, it represents a major loss of leverage. Trump's entire trade philosophy rested on the idea that the U.S. market was too valuable to ignore. He believed America could force other nations to the table through tariffs and pressure. But this corridor sends a different message. Countries are willing to walk away from the U.S. if they have to. Inside the Biden administration, officials are trying to strike a more measured tone. They've said publicly that U.S. trade relations remain strong, and they're keeping an eye on developments. But behind the scenes, there's concern, and rightly so. Some members of Congress are already floating the idea of retaliatory tariffs or restrictions. Others are urging calm, warning that escalating tensions could backfire and further isolate the U.S. What makes all of this even more ironic is that Trump often talked about rebuilding America's infrastructure. Roads, railways, ports. It was all part of his promise to restore American greatness. Yet here we are, watching Mexico and Canada take the lead with a concrete, funded, and internationally backed trade plan. while much of the U.S. infrastructure vision remains stalled in political gridlock. On the ground in Mexico and Canada, there's excitement. Construction has already started in key zones. Ports are being modernized, rail networks are being expanded, and foreign investors are lining up to participate. This isn't just a plan, it's happening. And for Trump, who's once again campaigning on an America First platform, the timing couldn't be worse. He's being outmaneuvered not by enemies abroad, but by allies at home. And they're doing it by playing the long game, something Trump rarely does. For the average American, this may not seem like a big deal yet. But over time, it could mean higher costs, fewer export opportunities, and a loss of control over supply chains. It's a reminder that in a global economy, isolation is a risky strategy. As the corridor takes shape, the world will be watching. Will the U.S. adapt to this new reality, or dig in deeper with old policies? Will Trump double down on tariffs, or will cooler heads prevail? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: the North American trade landscape is shifting, and Trump's response shows just how unprepared the U.S. is for what's coming next. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want more in-depth analysis on global politics and economics, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And let us know in the comments, do you think this trade corridor will succeed? What should the U.S. do in response?